Eamon, welcome back to the podcast studio.
Thanks, Molly.
How does it feel to be back?
Feels great. Feels like I never left.
It feels like you never left. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Good thing.
Good
Time
thing.
flies.
Okay. So we just got back from our Grand Summit conference in Seattle. Today is Monday. We just got back on Friday morning. We had a great event last week. And we always like to do just like a quick debrief. We just got out of doing an AAR, an after action review with our team, which if you attended the Grand Summit in Savannah, you know what that means. And now we're going to just talk about like the positive things. Like a lot went right. The AAR, I think we're overcritical of ourselves.
Sometimes that you can be your own worst critic.
Exactly. But we know that there's always room to improve. But I don't know. I think it was a pretty great program. What do you think?
I thought it was awesome. It was really cool for my first Grand Summit. I was definitely blown out of the water.
I like to hear that. What were you most curious, or what were you most excited about going into the program?
Definitely seeing everybody face to face.
Yeah.
We've met over Zoom, whether it's a peer group, a mastermind, or a one-on-one coaching session. Getting the face-to-face time is invaluable.
It totally is. I feel like it reminds you that you're like working like with humans, right? And what we do at the end of the day is like all about the human experience.
Exactly.
And like making things better in their the organizations and their personal lives. Did the reality compare? Like you were most excited about that? Did it hit home?
It hit home. I'd say one of my biggest takeaways was having been to different conferences and summits and seminars in the past.
Yeah.
All of the people typically worked for the same company.
Yeah.
So though we were remote cross country,
Yep.
everybody had similar issues, problems, weaknesses, strengths, all working towards the same goal, but from the same company. Everybody at this summit was from different companies all across the nation and Canada. And to have them come together, it was like we were all from one same company, and that really speaks to the mission, the overall objective of Summit and the Nolan Consulting Group as a whole, that everybody's is in it together.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could have been there on the first day, so we kicked the program off, not you, Eamon, but you, the listener who didn't get a chance to attend. If you could have been there on Monday when we kicked off the program and, at registration, at the cocktail hour, just like the energy in the room, the amount of hugging that was happening,
Yes.
The hotel staff was coming up to me because they were like, what's happening here? Like, this isn't a normal conference that they see. And I was like, oh yeah, these are folks who know each other, have built friendships, maintain, relationships, throughout the year. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. There's something special about this group, and that's so true. You're meeting these people for the first time, for me at least, and it's immediately to handshakes, hugs, dab ups, everything, and everybody's just immediately click like that.
I love it. If you had to describe, over the 3 days, the energy or the mood of this year's program, what would that be for you?
There was definitely a buzz, a lot of energy, a lot of optimism and excitement. Everybody came in so ready to share and ready to just absorb whatever they could. Everybody had a mission to meet as many people as possible, to grab as much content as they could, and couldn't wait to get back, which is important, I think, to mention that now, now that everything's sort of, the dust has settled, it's now the Monday after the conference. I think it's very important that we think back. And all right, you were going into this thinking, how many takeaways can I get? How many people can I meet?
Yeah.
How many notes can I fill out in my book? But looking back at that, okay, what can we take from the conference and how do we translate it to our business, to our organization, and to our people that weren't there?
Now the real work begins.
Yes.
And that's honestly where the real work also begins with the coaches, because now you are talking to clients who come back with all of these great ideas and you have to help them like prioritize and kind of, organize them into like coherent plans.
Right. Yeah. We have a lot of energy and momentum now, a lot of wind in our sails, as I like to say.
Yes.
We have to keep that.
Yeah. I love that you said, though, people kind of show up ready to learn, ready to connect, because that's something that I've said this before in the podcast. That's something that I have heard from our partners and our sponsors who come to this. They're so intrigued and overwhelmed by just the quality of these people who come to really engage.
Yeah.
Like they show up intentionally.
Right. Everyone, not just the speakers and the presenters, everybody there had something to contribute, something to give, an experience to talk about, a hand to lend somebody some insight, some intuition. It was very open.
I love it. Before we dive into some of the sessions and the content and some of our favorite things, we just got to give a shout out to Seattle. Such a cool city. We were fortunate to be, at a venue right downtown, kind of in the middle of it all, a 10-minute walk, if that, to Pike's Place.
Yeah,
Was this your first time to Seattle?
First time to Seattle. I'll definitely be back. The city, the weather was but the people, everyone I met, whether it was in the hotel, the conference center, Pike Place, some tour guides we had, everybody was very accommodating, very welcoming to the city. It was very clean and modern and up to date, and we really, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too. It's funny, if you came in early, so a couple of us from the team came in Saturday and Sunday, we had some really beautiful days haze on the front end. And then it rained, it's Seattle. It rains. It's what it does.
We signed up for that.
We signed up for that. But I always say, if you come prepared, you bring yourself a rain jacket, the appropriate shoes, you bring an umbrella, you can still have fun in that.
Right.
It's if you're underprepared,
you're going to get wet.
That's your problem.
But yeah, Seattle was great.
On the flip side, there was also beautiful weather. We had some teammates who stayed and went out to the national park, and they got blue skies. So yeah, it's a great, great city. If you've not been there, we highly recommend it. All right, let's talk about the content. We had sessions spanning from, big focus on AI and use cases to, negotiation skills, to safety, to mental health. What surprised you most about how our audience, and our audience being those leaders in the trade space, like how they engage with such a diverse program of different sessions?
Yeah, I think it was the conference was set up in a way that you could experience different subject matter that you wanted to. So I thought that was great that you were able to pick whether it was a tech-based conversation, an HR conversation, a leadership conversation. You could pick and choose what you wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And I thought it was also very cool how many of the companies that came brought people from the front lines, people who were actually in the field doing the work. And they were able to divide and conquer some of these sessions. So somebody would go to maybe the negotiation conversation, somebody else would go to a tech conversation. Then I'd see them get back together and talk immediately after that, grab a cup of coffee and like, what'd you hear? What'd you hear?
Yeah.
Oh, I have this to take back to the guys. I can't wait till we do this or that.
I love that. It also makes me really happy when someone comes up and says, I can't choose between the sessions. These all sound great. Like that just means we did our job.
Right. After the first session that I was in with the speaker, I was like, wow, that's really good. I really wish everybody else could have heard that. But then everybody else getting out of their sessions was saying the same thing. I just wish I could have been in, all the places at once.
Yeah, that's what makes it tricky. But when you bring your teammates and you can divide and conquer, that is the way to do it. So we kicked off the program with Tiffani Bova, our keynote speaker. And, we just re-released her, the podcast we did on her book last week. Again, just a reminder, Colin and I talked about this book, The Experience Mindset, The Flywheel of Growth, in January of 2025, not knowing she was going to be our keynote. It just kind of all fell into place. We were then very fortunate to be able to get her as our keynote. And she really spoke to kind of our larger theme, which was the intersection of leadership and technology. How do you think she did kind of kicking off the program theme?
Yeah, I think she nailed it. It was a perfect tie-in to, the people, processes, technology, and culture.
Yeah.
We were positioned to really tackle each one of those, and she tied it together very well.
Yeah, and she is so used to speaking in front of really large audiences, large organizations. She comes from a Salesforce background, and so I and speaking with her a couple weeks prior, I was like, just want you to know who our audience is here. These are like boots on the ground, small business owners who, varying revenue sizes. And it was really important that she could hit her topic to the audience in the right way. And I think she did that.
Yeah, she's a professional, no doubt. When it came to her presentation, she was speaking to her audience. So she definitely heeded, what you were saying to her, having her relatable story to the remodeling project that she's currently experiencing. While it was laced with some humor, there was some very, very good takeaways there. If anything, communication is key. Communication
is key. We say that all the time too. You need to communicate 10 times more than you think, kind of in every facet. But that was, her takeaway in working with instruction. Communication can make or break, honestly, the experience.
The whole thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it feels like, we know that, but clearly we don't all know that well enough.
Yes.
And then on day 2, we kicked off kind of another, keynote-esque with Rob Vallentine on how I show up as a leader in the topic of mental health. A totally different tone.
Yes. So going into the people aspect, that Rob's topic was heavy.
Very
heavy.
For
sure. But there was a point when everybody realized the gravity of what he was saying. You could hear a pin drop in the room.
Yeah.
He captured everybody's attention. Going around the room, we were sharing a few things a few times there. And you could tell that people were really putting some thought into it, because that's the kind of conversation. Maybe it happens behind closed doors or doesn't happen at all, but to have it in a room with 150, 200 people, to put it out there and say this is these are the kind of topics, though hard and difficult at times, that are okay to discuss. And sometimes you just have to ask somebody, how are you doing?
I don't want to say it was a risk on our part, but it in terms of making it a general session, kind of kicking off the full audience, it can create some level of uncomfortability, but that's why it was so important. And I'm so grateful to Rob for getting up there and sharing his story and making people feel like we're all a part of it, right? Like this is not just about a couple of people having struggles. This is something that we all need to carry. And the group received it so well.
Yes. Yeah.
It was like, they were like, we needed this.
Yes. I had the chance to speak with Rob later on that afternoon. And, I was telling him some personal experiences that I've had employees come to me in the past. And I've had these challenging, somewhat, emotional conversations with employees. And I said to him, I would feel sometimes in that position a little awkward because I'm not trained and I haven't had the experience at the level that he has on training this. And he said to me, Eamon, that's actually better sometimes, because when you're engaging with those employees, you're speaking from the heart, not from a manual, not from a textbook, not from a training course. So the biggest thing you can do at that point is listen, provide honest feedback. And when it gets to a level that exceeds a certain amount of expertise or experience, that's when it becomes your job to put them in contact with somebody that can take it to the next level.
Completely. It was really wonderful for me just to see multiple people having conversations with him, like yourself, kind of afterward. People were looking out for him, like, how can I get Rob on the side, and kind of just share their stories. I hope to do some more work with Rob in the future. I think there's opportunity to do a mental health first aid course, but just to kind of continue that conversation. The work here is not done. I think we've opened the door to this being a part of the coaching that we do.
Yes, it's a big one.
It's a big one. And then we had multiple AI sessions. Again, the negotiation, we hit safety. We had Webfoot sharing their experience about expansion and then retraction. There just was like such a depth of, and of course, sales topics, Mark Repkin, Jeff Kramer, but there was such a depth of content and quality. It felt really good.
It did. I think we, I don't want to say checked all the boxes like we had to, but there were areas of the conversation that came out and were able to develop into different aspects of your business. For example, AI was a topic that came up a lot, but it was cool to see the way that we kind of put it into different frameworks, right? Different types of conversations. So we spoke with project coordinators that are using it to create training manuals. We used it for, talking about reading large documents, like insurance policies, things like that, how to create bots. So all over the place with the technology in a good way that it allowed people to kind of pick and choose what they wanted to take out of it.
Yeah. Paul Greggy kind of kicked us off with looking at it from a whole AI workflow. And then we had Ross Hartman from Kingo AI come in and dive deep on build your bot. What I liked was that people who came out of that were like, my mind is blown.
Yes.
But in a good way.
Well, same. For myself, I've used AI ChatGPT for things like, medical records and, personal finances. But now there's all these different things that we want to start playing with, like scheduling and creating training programs and different things like that. Let's get into it.
Kind of going back to what you said at the beginning of people are excited. What I didn't want was people attending these AI sessions and leaving feeling overwhelmed and defeated, like they're never going to be able to grasp it. I think the flip happened. I think it opened up folks' eyes into how they can begin to incorporate it. I think people came in who maybe were a little bit of against AI at the start are now like, okay, there's some things I can do here when they left.
Yeah, anybody that was reluctant previously now should have anxious to get after it. I enjoyed, lunch sessions after hearing different people speak. Like Paul, for example, we tried to have our AI ChatGPTs talk to each other at lunch. We all started, trying some different, crazy things. So that's fun.
Very cool. Speaking of talking to each other, something new that we did this year, which I think went over very well, were our table talks, where on Tuesday we had 19 different topics that spanned across, all functions of the organization. And then on Wednesday we had 13 table talks and we're able to do some sponsored demos as well. I think my most favorite session out of all of them, although the keynote and Rob Vallentine are up there, is the table talks.
Table talks were great.
Yeah.
I know at least the two that I hosted, they went by so fast. I think we had about 30 minutes for each session, and it felt like we were just getting started and everybody was really starting to really open up and dive in, and then the timer went off. But that's a good sign. Yeah. Everybody had the energy and was willing to contribute and share what works for them, and they asked questions and go back and forth, and then it was like, boom, the timer went off and it was time to switch.
Do you think that fostered like ongoing conversations, like, at lunch or at happy hour?
Oh, definitely. And that's what I love about these types of events is the sessions, the breakout sessions, the roundtables are just the beginning. Yeah. It's the conversations that happen over a beer at the bar after dinner. These conversations that will continue.
Yeah. It was cool to see even on Wednesday after the conference had wrapped, got back from dinner and the bar was still pretty deep with some Summit members, just chatting and hanging out and keeping it going.
Enjoying the vibes.
In addition to table talks, we also did something new this year. We did our safety happy hour, which was helped Paul Cook and Meg Cook from Painters USA and Safety Reports helped us put that on. But that was neat. We'd never done something like that where we invited all of the companies who have gone through our level 1 safety certification process, who've put in the time to really establish and live a safety culture within the organization. But we gave them, a happy hour, a thank you, a recognition, and there just was good energy in that space.
Yeah, shout out to Paul and Meg Cook. Thank you for putting that on, and that was great. If you're, not safety certified, let this be your sign. It was a great chance to mingle and get to know people and talk and have a good beverage.
As I said, we're not above bribing people, to get them to be safety certified. It does.
Don't be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and we had to bounce. We had to be, you're not safety certified, can't be here.
Right.
And we don't like turning people away, but we want to really respect the folks that put in the work to be there. Eamon, was there like a moment or a conversation or maybe a couple of them from the program that you're still like thinking about?
Man, each night I was laying down in my bed and thinking back through the day, like mentally, going through hour by hour to think about what I did, who I spoke with, who I met, and recapping it and really trying to solidify it in my brain because there were so many new faces and names. It was getting to meet everybody, to see everybody and have those conversations with people. Yeah,
I mean, you, especially it being your first one, I mean, you were connecting with people that you work with on a regular basis. A lot of our associate coaches who you obviously have met and known for a while, but to actually get to be with them. Was that your first time in the room with Steve Talkington?
So it was, yes. Yeah. So, and I had an interesting perspective because having this been my first conference, I had clients in 3 different areas of their Nolan experience. I inherited clients who were with a coach before me who are now my client that I work with. So I was able to meet them.
Yep.
I have clients that have started with me in their business planning process, BPP. So they're coming out of that. So I was able to meet them and it was their first conference. Then I had a handful of clients where they have just joined Nolan. So we haven't even had our first call yet.
Yeah, that's cool that they got to be here.
It was so cool. So I got to have dinners with them and meet these individuals before even having our first scheduled call, which was, talk about setting it off on the right tone.
Completely. Yeah. And like they're fully getting the Summit member experience like from the start, which a lot of people have to wait for, when they, they're with us for 6 to 8 to 12 months before they get to experience a Grand Summit. Right. And these guys got to dive right in. Of the entire 3 days, what was your favorite part of the program? That's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the program would have been the welcome reception, having everybody for the first time come in and meet everybody.
Yeah.
And, you try to do this quick glance at the name tag, but they don't have name tags yet. And it's like, I know you, and it was just like, bring it in anyway. Let's, hug it out. And that was my favorite part, getting through that. And everybody, here we are, we're all in it together. Let's just get ready for a next good, great couple of days.
It is a good way to start the program, just to start off on like a social foot.
Right.
It's like the learning hasn't really started yet, although you're probably learning through just conversations that you're having, but it just gives people a chance to like warm up, get to meet some people before they're sitting at, round tables the next day to learn on some like heavy hitting topics.
Right. Maybe open up about something. Yes.
Yeah. We, friendship is one of our Summit member values, and we give out awards, Summit Value Awards at the end of the conference. Although a part of our AAR today we might change when we do that. So it might not be the end. It might be the beginning. You never know. We don't give to 2 to 3 people per value, personal development, accountability, collaboration. But the friendship value, we don't give an award to specifically, because how do you do that? It's impossible. We want to just make sure that our group as a whole is living that value. That's, the kindness of friendships and establishing relationships. So we play a video at the end that kind of encompasses,
love the video.
The video is
I wish it was longer.
I know.
We could have watched that for 20 minutes.
So it's going to be longer.
Oh, good.
The team at Reflection Marketing, which were awesome, by the way. If you're out in Seattle and you need a videographer and photographer, highly recommend Reflection. They also do social media marketing, but they only, that video only captures like the first day and a half. We are getting a longer video that incorporates more footage and more testimonials, which is awesome. So there's so much more content to come there. But we want to show that as a kind of an embodiment of capturing the moments. And so that video really shows people hugging and laughing and smiling and just kind of embracing each other, which is very cool. And one thing that we do is we differentiate the lanyards. So if you are brand new, although we didn't do it to you because
No,
you're on our coach team. If you are a client and this is your first conference, we put on an orange, we give you an orange lanyard with your name tag. If you've been with us for over 10 years, you get a navy and everybody else gets a light blue. The reason we do that is because we want those who have been around to see the new folks and to make them feel welcome and to feel that embodiment of that friendship. And I think it works.
That was a great idea. That was huge. You can walk up to somebody with the orange lanyard and this is your first Grand Summit. Welcoming. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? How's it going? Who have you met? It's also just a great conversation starter. Even for those, who are over 10 years, which we have a decent amount of clients who are over 10 years. And we've got, I think it's 5 or 6 clients now who hit 20 years.
20 years.
As a Nolan client, which is like shocking. For many reasons, that the 20 years has gone by so fast. You and I both have not been here for the full 20 years. We've been here for quite a bit of them, but it just speaks to the type of people that I think we work with and the values have been established.
Right. And obviously something's working here, right?
Something is working here.
The commitment, it definitely shows that, what's going on here works and people are here to help each other. And it's a testament to, the goal here is working together and as long as it takes.
As long as it takes. We talked a little bit about kind of now the work really begins now that they're coming back and seeing all the things and, all the things that they want to do in your job as a coach to help prioritize. But is there anything else that you now that you've taken from this program and want to incorporate into your coaching or how you're going to work with your clients going forward as a result of this program?
I have some specific notes on things that came up that weren't part of the plan that we were working towards necessarily with some of my clients. But I think just the fact of the time of the year was critical in this, that it's, whether you're starting with Nolan and you're a new client or you've been with us for 20 years, this is such a great time. It's before the rush of the holidays get in.
Yep.
We're starting to look at 2026 and now we can hit January with a fresh outlook and just take everything that we've learned from the summit, from each other and the new networking and connections that we've made into the new year. So I think the timing was ideal for this type of event.
Yeah, you can hit your annual planning with a lot of energy behind it.
Yes.
Because we are deep in that season. We have a lot of clients or a lot of coaches going on site visits now. Brian has still not returned. He's still on the West Coast.
He's a nomad at this point.
He is a nomad. He had 3 site visits after this conference. He just spent some time at Fitzpatrick Painting. I think he's at Lancaster. He's going to Albright, MB Jesse. So he's deep in client world. Colin goes off this week to visit AI painting. So the weeks just get filled, but it's pretty cool because we've had that connection point this past week with our clients, and now coaches are going into those annual planning site visits with really good energy.
Yeah, I have 2 site visits coming up.
I love it.
Yeah, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I just want to thank those clients who were able to make it and bring your team. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day-to-day. As I said this at the very kickoff of the program, we know it's an investment not only to get your team there financially, but also time to kind of change up your normal routine. So we value them showing up and coming with such vigor. The sponsors that come, thank you for being here and helping us put on this event. Like I said, always, we cannot do it without them. They were a really integral part of the program, from sponsor demos to the sponsor hall to leading a lot of table talks. So we really looked to incorporate them as much as we could. We're diving in to think about planning for our next conference. We're planning for March 2027.
Very exciting.
Very exciting, which is 18 months away, but we all know that's going to be here before we know it. It'll be somewhere on the East Coast, maybe Southeast, maybe Midwest area, but we'll make sure to communicate that with the team. But any final words, Eamon?
Yeah, I just want to say to everybody that was there, thank you for making the trip and coming out and for everyone's participation, and that when you get back to your home office, make sure you take some time to debrief with the people that weren't there. Obviously, you won't be able to get into as much depth, the detail, and emotion that comes with actually being present and physically being there. But they're going to wonder what you were doing over the past 3 or 4 days when you were in Seattle. So make sure you give them an overview of what you went through, what you saw, and what some of your takeaways were. But I say that with a bit of caution. We don't want to lay too much on them. Be strategic with the takeaways that you have with the practices, policies, procedures, something that you would like to begin to implement. Don't do it all at once. It could be overwhelming. Let's take it one step at a time.
That's a really, really, really good point. And I do want to say we are uploading all of the slide decks from those presentations to the app. So if you were an attendee and you couldn't get to a session because you were, a panelist somewhere else, we are uploading that material. That'll be available starting actually now when you hear this podcast. Survey is going out, so we make sure we can get feedback. And if you have specific thoughts that you want to share, we would love to hear them.
Let us know.
Let us know. We are an open book. And there are some continuing or new programs starting, in December, our AI work group.
Oh, yes.
Which we're pumped about. We're already filling seats for that. So we've got some good things planned for 2026. Again, as you're going into your annual planning, this is a great time to think about those and getting engaged.
Right. Well, speaking of engagement, I also want to remind you to reach out to the people that you met last week. If you wrote down their number, if you exchanged contact information through the app, don't let those relationships fizzle out. Make sure you reach out to those people, keep those conversations going, whether it was another business or one of our vendor sponsors.
Completely.
Make sure you keep those connections going.
Yeah, those are the people ultimately are in your same seat in just another business, and they're in they're rhyme or they're prime for that best practice sharing.
Yep. Don't wait for us to connect it. You've
Don't
done
wait.
it. Yeah, just reach out.
Yeah, that's what the Summit membership is for, and that's what Summit Connect is for. So we'll be putting some energy around that, the new community hub for Summit members. Well, Eamon, I'm so glad we did this debrief. It was fun to relive it a little bit. Thank you for coming back to the podcast. And thank you for coming to your first Summit.
Thanks, Molly. Shout out to Molly, too, for putting on such a great show. Grand Summit is a lot of work. I don't know if everyone on the other end of this microphone understands the reality of the work that goes into this type of program, but very well done, Molly and team.
I appreciate that. It is not a solo job. The team, I was, just thanking Maureen and Jen this morning, and I think Dee and Kevin, and everybody. This program is a heavy lift for our small but mighty team. And I think we do an extraordinary job with the resources that we have. And the team, they assume their role, they assume their responsibilities, and they just get it done. It's, you play the role of trust but verify. And I was super impressed with the team this year. Yep. So it's good stuff.
Great job.
We're ending 2025 on a very positive note here.
High note.
All right, well, Eamon, thank you, and until next time.
Thanks, Molly.